hospitality studies, and outside the tourism and hospitality studies from across the country, I can see many other places which have been doing commendable job in this education sector. New national education policy has given all of us a reason to think about, rediscuss, re-engineer, and ponder over the what I resist from saying is the crisis in education, rather than I would say that this has given us an opportunity to create or cause what we call as a paradigm shift in the higher education, particularly because this is a sector which we are concerned with, and think about and rethink about particularly the education sector we are concerned with, that is the tourism sector or tourism and hospitality sector. Uh, uh, I must say that any education that we talk about, be it higher education or intermediate education or the early education, which was not the area of concern for prior policies of this country, has now been taken as a very serious area of interest of early childhood studies, which pre 6 years studies, you can say 3 to 6 years, that has now been talked about. And then we have a very serious emphasis on the middle level education, which has been, if I say very bluntly, the reason for many of the problems that we have in this country's education scenario. Uh, to take the list, the policy has two, three very important uh, contextual points that have been mentioned in this policy. I think we must not miss the context, because if we miss the context, we will miss the entire focus of national education policy, which is likely to lead us to in next say 2 decades to 3 decades that we are talking about, till around 2050. Uh, for the first time, this policy mentions three of our most prominent ancient universities of past. You can say ancient universities, Nalanda, Takshashila. These are the mentioned names which have never been mentioned in Indian policies so far. So these are the reference points that have been given to us for leading us to future. From past to future, that link has been talked about and given. I give you one example why this has been talked about, because this is one of the policies, rare policies in the world, which has gone through such a rigor of exercise. More than 250,000 villages been consulted, almost all academic people consulted, all people's representative consulted, right up to the panchayat level. The consultations took place. It took them about 2.5 years to consult and create this policy document, which is a very, that is why it is done a very commendable job in giving that recommendation. So why they mention this? I give you one small example. We have all known the Nalanda University of past and the glory that it got to there. It is mentioned in the records, in the documents, that when entrance examination for Nalanda used to take place, there were about 40,000 students appearing from all over the world to take admission in this university. And the capacity of the university was only 10,000. That was the time that we have seen in past. 40,000 people from around the world. One of the weaknesses of Indian education today is that we have very, very few international students in Indian campuses now. Aisha gives us a number of less than 50,000 students studying in Indian universities today. And that too from Sudan, Nigeria, Afghanistan, and these countries only. So we have lost out as far as the global presence or global image of our education institutions. We have absolutely lost out on that. And these students too, who are studying because of ICSSR and ICCR gives them the fellowship to come and study here. So we have this is just to be kept in mind, that Indian education system was global in nature and character, which has become very local now, and that is why it has lost sheen as far as the global issues are concerned. 30,000 students, those who could not take admission in Nalanda, led the vicinity of Nalanda to have 18 more universities. 18 more universities came up within 100 kilometers of Nalanda simply to take care of these people who were left out and could not get admission in Nalanda. So that was the point, because the education standards, education provided was global in nature and character. We have addressed these issues in the policy documents, and I will just briefly mention them also. Then coming to our sector, higher education per se. Higher education, as I said, it's dependent on the middle level education. Education up to intermediate is the reason for standards or lack of it of higher education. We have got roughly about 1,000 universities now, 45,000 colleges in this, apart from polytechnics and medicals and all those institutions which are independent institutions. We have huge number of colleges available. Why I'm saying huge? Because most of the engineering colleges do not have students. That's a problem. Most of the management colleges do not have students. They're still struggling to get students. Where have the students gone? What has happened to these institutions? There are certain problems or weaknesses that this document itself mentions, and that is the commendable part of, again, this document, this policy, is that it mentions in black and white what ails the higher education system in this country. And there are 10 points they have mentioned. One is, the first point that they mentioned is that we have highly fragmented ecosystem of higher education. That we have compartmentalized higher education so much that it has virtually become a meaningless exercise. Take one subject of your choice, we will force you to take two more of my choice. And this is the system that we are working in. If you are in this sector, you have to study this much only. If you are in the other sector, you have to study this much only. You cannot jump, or you cannot study what you would like to study. We will make you study what we like to study from the convenience part of the institutions rather than from the convenience of the learners. From the entire education system of past was learning centric. The entire education today is a learner centric education. Learning is gone. Learner is the focus. We will make you learn what we want you to learn. And that is what has killed many of the sectors which were highly skillful. And tourism and the hospitality sector was one sector where skills mattered more than what you have written in the books. Paramita is a student. Anybody who can stop in the language did not know how to speak. We have seen that age. We started with foreign languages in our institutions. Initially, people were learning and doing well. The time came very fast, but they were getting good marks but not knowing the language. So passing an examination is a different art. Learning that is a very different focus. Learning was compromised, passing was prioritized, and therefore the crisis came. So fragmented educational system at the higher level is one of the reasons why we are faring so badly. Then we did not emphasize enough on learning the skills. Rather emphasized on reproducing what we have taught you. We have a very hard and artificial kind of division of subjects, compartmentalization of subjects, where the student is forced to learn something which is of a very high standard at a very early stage. You have to take a specialization. Without knowing the generalization, we force them to take a specialization courses. And specialization and super specialization take them to only one very narrow area of knowledge, and thereby they do not remain relevant for a generalized kind of education that they must be. Then the accessibility. Accessibility of higher education has been very limited. The GER of this country, with all kind of effort, is around 26.3 or 26.4. UP has a point less than the national level average of GER. Some of the most developed states have a low GER. Punjab has a low GER. UP has a low GER, lower GER than the average, national average. What is wrong with the GER? What is wrong with this concept? Even if we have 26.3%, if we test them qualitatively, it will be 12% only. It is only a number because we have opened so many colleges affiliated to our systems that they at least have the number of students studying, doing their graduation part, but we all know what is the quality of these graduates coming out of these self-financing colleges around the country, that we have so many of them. So the accessibility, though it is less, qualitatively, if we say, it is all again very, very poor. GER is less than what we call as the developed word of GER. But here I would say one small point, that there is a very interesting study being conducted by AIU and UGC put together on GER. It says that the GER that we are talking about is the same definition that we have taken, which is taken by the developed world. Unfortunately, GER of higher education should be known or should be calculated on the basis of eligible people available for higher education, rather than the total people available for higher education. We are taking 18 to 23 age group as an available student for higher education. Whether they pass 12 or whether they do not pass 12, that is not calculated in the definition. So if you have people passing +2 as the base point, your GER, or what they have called is the EER, eligible enrollment ratio, that will jump to about 64 to 65%. And that should be the criteria, unless we are able to ensure. Look at the dropout ratio from primary to higher. The dropout ratio is startlingly high, alarmingly high. And for certain sections of society, it is very, very high. Even the iShade data mentions that the minorities dropout ratio is very, very high. Particularly the Muslim ratio is very, very high. Muslim constitute about 20% of your population, and their higher education enrollment is around 8.5% only. So they have a very, very low rate of going into higher education, and that if we have a sectoral knowledge of these people, we will be able to evolve policies to take them into the main fold of higher education and improve the GER. And there is no harm taking that, because you know that the GER, the percentage-wise the participation of, say, OBC is good, SC is also reasonably okay, but minorities is very, very low. So we have this focus has to be there as far as minorities is concerned. Then one point that this policy talks about is a very good point, is that we have limited number of teachers, and in even more lesser autonomy of institutions. Institutional autonomy is very less. The number of teachers is even less. So that makes you handicapped with regard to available number of students and take care of them. Then you still do not have a link. I'm leaving aside IGNOU at the moment because they have a link. Is the link between the professionals and the institutional teachers. The professional available teachers, or leaders you can say, and the institutional teachers available, if both of them combine into one, you have a better mechanism of learning them, making them learn the skills. Particularly, this system is not generally available across the nation, minus, of course, I said the open and direct, open distance learning institutions like IGNOU and other open universities of the country. Then you have a far less researchers available. 0.6% is the research GER if you wish to calculate. This is the level of people we take them to research level. Quality of research, if you calculate, it will be 0.1%. The number of PhDs that we produce is very high, but the quality of research that we carry out is a very poor. This has also been listed by this particular policy. It's not that I am giving you my view. We are subscribed to this view only, but then this is the view. These are the points mentioned in the National Education Policy 2020. We have a very poor regulatory system for higher education, and the final point that it lists is that if you have very high number of affiliated colleges to institutions, which is almost impossible to supervise, let alone govern. I think uh, I can I can vouch for myself that I was not able to see my colleges even once in my entire career, entire term of 3 hours, 3 years and 2 months. It is impossible to visit all 790 colleges within the period of one span. And we still have institutions in this country, universities in the country, which have a direct affiliation of more than 1,000 colleges across the country. Mumbai University tops the list, and the rest of them, of course, Kanpur, Agra, Meerut. They are not very far behind. They are as close to them as possible. So, because of this, we have a very low standard set for education, higher education, and this is where we have this. Now, coming to what should we do? The There is also, coming to tourism and hospitality studies. We know that tourism as a branch of education is a very new subject. National policy on tourism came only in 1992. And from there, we had the impetus of providing education as far as tourism is concerned. 1993, 94, a lot of universities and colleges started teaching or took up the challenge of teaching TTM at the graduation level and then mastering into master's courses. And of course, Jhansi was leader in many of the hospitality courses. And then venturing also into some MPhil courses and PhDs later on. So we are a very new entrant. But the classical problem of tourism and hospitality is that the activity existed ever since you have the mankind. Education started very late in the middle of about 20th century. So this gap of practice and education, this comes as a problem for this education. People who know how to do it or how they're doing it, they always challenge you. Our operators, tour operators, our people in the field always say that even when you were not there, we were running the show. So with you or without you, the show has been going on. Let us see the Indian context. Jitendra will take this word very seriously. The Atan has been the reason of existence in India. But this Atan has other adjectives added to it. Tirthatan is the Deshatan was the first. Tirthatan became the two. Paratan is the third one. Paratan is actually not an Indian concept. Paratan came as a European concept to all of us. It means travel for pleasure and leisure. It's something not from our own ideology. The Atan was there. You have the wander around. You have to go for the sake of knowledge. You have to go for the sake of your pilgrims and other reason to think. And I'm saying that post-pandemic, the first thing that is going to take up, and it is already taking up, is the Tirthatan. First thing which has already shown the revival is the Tirthatan, the pilgrimage. So here onwards, I think the opportunity for us is to organize this sector also. We have been ignoring it so far. This is a mass tourism activity, all right, but we think that it is economically very poor. It doesn't contribute much to your economy anyway. Foreign currency does. So international tourist and travel is more important than the local travel, and particularly the pilgrimage. Pilgrimage has been left. This is the first sector that we are getting an opportunity to manage this sector, which is numerically very high and also qualitatively can be segregated. This area also has an opportunity of lots and lots of writing. Unfortunately, the literature available for this sector is still more of legends than of scientific nature. We have to do a lot on this. I started a lot of studies. We in Ayodhya, Shodh Sansthan are bringing out, we are working on Encyclopedia of Ramayana. You will not believe, when we started this idea, we had a thought that we will do about 3 to 4 volumes of Encyclopedia on Ramayana and finally make some contribution to it. But as we made it, the news is spread, we started contacting, we started sharing these ideas. I can tell you today that we are already booked for about 300 volumes from across the world. We are still working on other sector with the help of MEA, that is Ministry of External Affairs, on a volume of Rama-based diplomacy. They have agreed to it. Dr. Akhilesh Mishra has agreed that I will do something on Rama-based diplomacy because 110 countries are linked with Ram, and if you can do this something, and we will have a biggest block of nations which can be rooted to culture, the first cultural block of the world maybe. So we have a lot to do in this sector. We started with 3 volumes. We are now working on 229 volumes right already, and another 60, 70 volumes have been worked about. 110 countries are participating. All 30 states are participating. They are writing their own version of Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana particularly, and the other available Ramayana. And then, of course, there's a list of topics that we are now working on. 29 volumes will be only on Ayodhya. Only on Ayodhya. So we have a lot of work to be done. I'm talking only of Ramayana right now. You can think of literature available to you from past to present, and the amount of work that can be done and everything that you write is a potential source of tourism activity. India is a destination for knowledge-based activity, is a cultural destination of the world. For the cultural destination of the world, they have to have a lot of literature available on your own culture. Unfortunately, we do not have much. And I'm talking about the scientific nature of your own culture. The first belief that you are scientists, and of course, then you can develop a lot of it. Fortunately, you have, in this particular NEP, you have a lot of scientists who have studied culture and been contributing this NEP 2020, and therefore you have that kind of a link and a tinge of culture at almost every page of this policy. This is the first policy, I think, first time there is another Indian policy which talks about India to become a Vishwaguru. This word is mentioned, Vishwaguru. Otherwise, never in the past you have any policy that mentions India as a Vishwaguru. You also have an opportunity, a great opportunity. IGNOU, of course, had global presence in past also, and now the NEP gives you another big opportunity that foreign universities will be allowed to open their campuses in India, and India's top institutions will be given an opportunity to establish their campuses all over the world. Now, this is big thing. For this, again said that we have to develop our own literature, our own knowledge, our own research, which can have a global value. And people are ready to learn from you, but you have to have your own, literature available. One thing I mentioned, of course, it is a painful thing, but then I do, that if you have to study Hinduism in a university, you probably have to go out of India. 67 universities of the world have departments of Indology. Indian universities do not have. One of my friend's daughter is studying Hinduism in USA. Because he said, I wanted to learn, but Indian universities do not provide this course. When will we decide that teaching something is not converting anybody? It is a knowledge sake. People who are studying in USA are not Hindus. Anybody can understand anything. So we should have this kind of opportunity of taking on, quenching the knowledge of individuals from around the world is very important. Indian cuisine, of course, the hospitality sector people will understand that Indian cuisine is probably the biggest science that we had in past. And we have a lot of books available, of course. Madhur Jafri is a celebrity globally. who writes on Indian cuisine around the world. We need to work a lot upon this. Corona has given you this opportunity. You please listen to Professor M.L. Bhatt's lecture on Corona. He was the Vice Chancellor of Medical University of Lucknow. And when he discussed the entire cause and effect of Corona, he said India survives because of its culinary sciences. But unfortunately, much of it is not known to Indians also. What we are learning is the European methods, but we do not know the Indian methods of doing this, and the Indian method has made you survive and has given you necessary immune systems to bear out this onslaught of this kind of pandemic and manage your death rate at almost less than 1%. This is a commendable job done not by the government, but because of your own system of what you call as eating, behaving the way you are. We had initially all of us feared that once Corona reaches the rural area, what will happen? It never reached the rural area because they are the most natural people. It hit the urban centers. It hit the urban centers which are very bad on their eating habits, the living patterns, their culture. It hit Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Delhi. It never hit the villages. Because the food is the reason of your immune system. And food is a science in Indian cultural patterns. But that has to be learned, documented, and of course, taught. Third, of course, IGNOU again is a leader, already a leader, and has to not only maintain it, but lead others also, is that NEP gives us the freedom of taking our credits from anywhere. This is an open credit system, the pool of bank of credits, you can call it, where you can have your passbook and you can withdraw your credits from the bank. Lot of opportunity is now given to us for developing those credits from small sectors that we used to ignore so far. We don't need, every course doesn't need to have a 6 credit course. We can have a single credit, 2 credits, 3 credits, 4 credits, 5 credits, 6 credits, and higher credit courses of letting people know intricacies of not only tourism, hospitality, cuisine, travel, education, everything. And this microcrediting program is something that is going to be successful in future. I tell you, a lot of scientists will come to understand what is the culinary science of this country, provided we give them opportunity. A lot of people from a lot of sectors will try and understand what is happening here. What is India? Even Indians do not know, of course. So I also propose to this steering committee that know your country and know your state has to be the focus of this education system now. We should not give any degree of any student who has not visited at least 1 or 2 states. Spend some time, learn something about the other culture, learn something new about the country. Then, of course, he is eligible to have a degree from institutions. We have actually distributed enough degrees now. I think high time that the degrees should have a cost on it, and cost not necessarily on monetary side, but they must do something to earn their degree. Enough of it that you can see a student. I know many of them, of course, with your career span. Also, you must have seen people who have not even left the cities and have become PhDs. From nursery to PhD without movement. This is something. This is a criminal waste of academic exercises to give people a degree which it doesn't deserve, of course. So, study tours should be integral part of earning your credits now. It's very important. Unless we do that, we will not be able to create a cross-state movements, cross-country movements, letting people know each other. It will solve many problems, of course. For us, Paramita will take exception. Many of us, we believe that Northeast is a different world. Many Northeast people say that we are going to mainland. They say this. We think that South is something which is a different state. different ecological regions. We are thinking because we have been taught like that. We have been taught like that, and we have never been given an opportunity to mingle and meet each other. I think the beauty of Northeast can only be beholden. There's no way that I can describe, or nobody can describe it. Unless you are there, you cannot see it. And then, of course, then you will have the understanding of mutual understanding of each other. And that is the crux of this country. Diversity is not the future of India. The unity of diversity is the future of India. Diverse ways of doing same thing is the future of India. And that is, we will learn once you expose yourself to the whole country level. And of course, the cross country, the pan nation course should become an integral part of the studies. SOPs have to be drawn, of course, because in past also one accident and you stop this. We have become too cozy to do this. SOP can be created. You can have a dedicated tour operators coming up for study tours only. You take the responsibility, but study tour across the nation should be a mandatory part of this education, at least tourism and culinary education. Unless you be to Kashmir, you will never be knowing how to make a Vazwan product. You cannot make Vazwan in Delhi. And even if you make in Jhansi, it will not taste the same. This has to be learned there. You have to see the way, because food in India is not something related to appetite. Food in India is a part of your culture. What you eat is not important. How you eat is also important. So that is a part of your culture. Indian food is part of Indian culture, not the Indian appetite. It is not a physiological exercise. It is a cultural exercise, and we must understand this and appreciate the difference. And the moment you appreciate the difference, you will know why Japanese do the way Japanese do. Why they offer you tea in the particular way, because it's a part of culture, not your tea. Tea is less important. Why you go in China, you will see the moment your teacup is empty, they will fill it. Immediately fill it, because they say that empty cup is bad. It is a bad omen. So we don't leave the cup empty. Of course, it is only hot water, not more than that. But the part of culture, you must understand that food is not only a part of your physiological existence, but it is also part of your culture. And lot of literature need to be developed and courses developed on each part of it. It's a good exercise, but with Aparna ji in the helm of affairs and a lot of people across the country, now our students are also becoming good teachers around the country. So we can have a core group of people who can work on this, and we can draw a lot of, I would say that I will probably get hold of a chaatwala at a thela and find out what he does, the way he does. Can he teach 5 interns of my institution to make them learn the art of your this particular dish? And that will probably give them more credits on in-hand training than teaching in a classroom. So I hope classroom or laboratory. So real life training, it is a time for us to expand. Of course, currently you will go online, fair enough. A lot of people do cook, make a lot of things by YouTube videos also. But we have to plan for future. We have to learn from the masses, learn from the society, and give back to the new generation. My motto is that let us link from past to future, and that is the responsibility of all of us. And NEP gives us all this opportunity. The entire document is full with the literature which says that we must link past to future, and that is what is probably the mandate. Thank you very much, Paramita ji and Jiten bhai, for giving me this opportunity. The professional staff, thank you so much. You were so patiently listening, and I hope you form a core group of teachers and individuals to take this up further. We will all cooperate wherever we are, and we see that our tourism and hospitality books will be richer with real life experiences than the European experiences that we share with all of them now. Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Saab, for being on the screen throughout. Grateful for this opportunity and look forward to many more interactions in future. Thank you so much.
हमारे सर बने रहते हैं सर, पूरे संगोष्ठी में जिसमें भी आते हैं पूरा सुनते हैं, बैठे रहते हैं एकदम बिल्कुल धैर्य के साथ.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insights. It's much needed. I now request our PVC, Professor R.P. Das. Sir, please kindly share your thoughts on national education policy. You have been the guiding light for organizing this webinar, so I look forward to hearing your views on it.
सभी को नमस्कार. Thank you, Paramita, for giving me this opportunity. Our esteemed Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, the Chief Guest of the occasion, Manoj Dixit ji, former Vice Chancellor of Awadh University, the Director of the Institute, Jiten Srivastav ji, all the galaxy of experts of tourism from the country. I could see their names and some of them are present. The faculty of School of Tourism and directors of the schools and others. In fact, our VC Sahab has correctly started the thing, initiated the thing by requesting Manoj ji to deliver his address, because he is ultimately the attraction of the day, and he has given his thought, which has given enough food to us to discuss throughout the day on various issues, especially with respect to tourism and hospitality education in the context of National Policy on Education 2020. In fact, I must appreciate the director of the school that in a very short notice he could organize this program and brought all the people throughout the country who are involved in the tourism education. And the school is really very active, and I appreciate the school for all their efforts all the time. Coming to the topic, Manoj ji has already made the things very clear to all of us. But what I feel, especially in the National Policy on Education 2020, with reference to tourism and hospitality sector, somebody told me that nothing is written about it, but I think everything is given in it. That we have to understand what is there, because the other day somebody told that nothing is written about IGNOU, but everything is given about IGNOU, that in new education policy, in National Policy on Education, everything is given about what IGNOU has to do. Perhaps IGNOU will be the leader if the National Policy on Education 2020 is to be implemented in toto in this country. What I personally feel, that if we look at the vision of this National Policy on Education, that has made us, the first beginning is that we have to sensitize our people about Indian ethos and ethics. It's a fact that in the last few decades, it is lost among our children, among our students. Many people do not know what is Indian ethos, what is in the Indian culture, what is Indian value system. It gradually missed from our school days to this date. And we must appreciate the government and the policymaker, the people who are involved in the policy making process. This is one of the, what Manoj said correctly, it is one of the excellent policy, education policy we could have produced ever in the, not only in our country, in the world. It is so well prepared, like, you know, you have made a garland which flower is to be fitted, like that it has been made. The education policy has been so well designed, from KG to PG to PhD to research program, that we must appreciate it. Coming back to this tourism and hospitality, it is usually we study it whenever we come to PG program. Hardly it is told about it is taught in schools or colleges, but whenever we come to post-graduation level, universities, we suddenly come across a department called MBA, MBA Tourism, now MTA. And nowadays, in some universities, tourism is, in some colleges, tourism has been introduced. But what I feel, If we have to talk about Indian ethos, Indian culture, Indian value system, and if that has been integral part of tourism education and hospitality, then I believe that the planners and policymakers of tourism and hospitality education have to think about it. Can we give some programs, some courses from our school days to our children from schools, in the colleges? And because now, as Manoj ji has correctly said, that a lot of flexibility is there in this new policy. So it should be, and particularly for our university, IGNOU, as we have plenty of opportunity to have certificate programs, diploma programs, and graduation programs and post-graduation programs. Earlier in a meeting, we have decided that if in hospitality sector, what we can do. Sandeep was there, Manjula madam was there. We had discussed that how we can start some short-term courses, certificate courses or diploma courses. Now that time has come. We have to make it into practice. We have to bring it into limelight by forming different certificate programs on tourism, on culture, on Indian ethos, on different tourist destinations. Because whenever we say we have to prepare our people with Indian ethos, culture, traditions, custom, we have to expose our children, what Manoj ji has correctly said. We have to expose our students. How many of us have seen Nalanda? If Nalanda is so great, was so great, we are proud of it. How many of us we have come to this stage? How many of us have seen it? Now, my point is that we have to think of designing some courses starting from school to PG or PhD programs, in which people should be exposed. That should be integral part of our education systems today, so that people can be sensitized about from the day one that what is our culture, what is our tradition, what is our ethos. And I think tourism education has to take the lead role in this regard. So likewise in the hospitality sector, I believe that of course during COVID-19 this tourism and hospitality sector has been badly damaged, disturbed throughout the world, not in our country. It is one of the sector which gives maximum employment to educated, illiterate, and literate people. It is badly affected. Now it is high time for us to think about how to develop some programs, educational programs, some programs for the people who will be involved in this industry, in this sector. So I think the national policy of education has given us enough opportunity, enough freedom to think about it. We, all the planners and policymakers, particularly in the tourism sector, who are gathered together but here in this forum, should today discuss about it, that what we can do for this in this new national education policy context, at least with reference to IGNOU, so that we can develop, design, and deliver more and more programs, certificate or diploma programs, so that it can be largely beneficial not only to the people who are working in the sector, but people who can be attracted towards the sector by designing these short-term and long-term programs. Because we have our there is a lot of scope which we have in our system, which we can give to because we have a credit transfer system is there, as the policy, national policy facilitated. So if we can develop this type of programs, and it can be very useful to the people who want to join the tourism sector or hospitality sector. Thank you very much. I think there should be more discussion, and I will be there throughout the day to see that what discussion is going on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind words. And the most encouraging word you have said is that you will be around with us for the day. That's something we look forward to. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, to kindly address the audience.
Good morning to all of you. We have listened carefully to Professor Manoj Dixit, who is my old friend also. And the way he articulated the theme, it is an eye-opener to all of us. And lots of insights we all have got from his talk today. Especially our young friends who are in the field of tourism in the school, they will gain much more from the inputs which they got from Professor Dikshit. I am also happy to see my old friends. Aparna ji is here, Parida is here, S.K. Gupta, and also Sampad Sai, and few more would like to join also, maybe Manjula ji and Sandeep ji. So I thank all of them for sparing their valuable time for the school. The school has taken a great initiative, especially the young faculty. And as far as IGNOU is concerned, this is the first school which has taken up this sort of initiative, school-specific initiative, with respect to the National Education Policy 2020. Of course, this school has taken lots of initiatives, especially in the field of online education also. In January 2020, the school is the first one which has gone for the certificate in tourism studies as the first online course of the university. Then later on, in the subsequent stages from July 2020, we have also gone for online courses. The BTS, it was the most popular one. Even right now, I was looking at the enrollment. It has crossed more than 4,000. The people who wanted to have this particular program, online programs in BTS. So that shows the credibility and popularity of the young faculty, which is continuously striving to build this particular school. They're also having other programs. They are also quite popular, BTM and MTM also. If you look at the things what Manoj ji has said to all of us, there are 2 or 3 things which are much more important to all of us. One thing is, rather than focusing on a program, can we focus on the courses? Because once we look at a program, the learner may like a few courses, and the other few courses he may not like. So that is why the course specific focus, it should be there. And when we look at the SWAYAM platform and the SWAYAM courses, there that course specific focus is existing, and that is existing since 2016 also. And more than 2 crore enrollments they have taken place till this point of time. And IGNOU is also a pioneer to this endeavor, and the School of Tourism is also doing a good job as far as the course specific initiatives are concerned. And their courses are very, very popular. Because in the course specific initiatives, we can also promote the multidisciplinary focus, which the National Education Policy has always emphasized upon. Because in the National Education Policy, what they say is that focusing on one discipline or one program will not help a learner. The learner needs to be promoted or to be motivated to study more than one discipline. And for that, he has to pick up the courses from different disciplines. And maybe this particular idea, and even in the case of this tourism also, this particular school has picked up certain courses from the School of Social Sciences, from the School of Management also. So maybe this is an eye-opener for us, that can this school may add a few more courses from geography, from sciences, or maybe our culture also. Because so many things we can add. And once we see that our course becomes a multidisciplinary program, then the learner, they will also be attracted, and that will also enhances their employability potential. And that is the need of the hour also. And our National Education Policy also forces us to look into that particular area. When we see that the new education policy is also telling us that there should be multiple entries and multiple exits. Yes, we are already in an advantageous position. And our certificate courses, even when we have launched this BTS program in online mode, we know that the students, they can go for certificate program, they can go for diploma program, and finally, they may also go for the degree program also. So multiple exits are already available in this process. So the things, they are in the right direction. The things what Manoj ji has said to all of us is that we have to upgrade. We have to see that wherever the contents have become obsolete, wherever the contents require updation or upgradation, they are to be done at the earliest, so that the learner is now more aware of the entire environment. He knows much more about our social environment, knows much about the political environment, regulatory environment, and also the potential of tourism in our country. So we have to see that how those potentials, they can be exploited by the school, so that the interest of the learners, it can be further sustained and they can become much, much more employable also. And this is a good beginning, and my friends are already here, and they will definitely supplement the things, and the school will introspect the whole material which they will get from this one-day webinar from the learned experts. They will look into it, and they may prepare their own roadmap to move ahead in this direction. And I'm happy that school is already doing a good job, and they will definitely do good things from the inputs which they get from here. And we're also happy to note that since the guru is here of the school, Manoj ji is the guru of the Paramita ji, so guru is here, then the students, they will definitely do much better for the university as well as for the school as a whole. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming over here and blessing all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those encouraging words. It's always a pleasure when we see that you appreciate our hard work, and that also in such a large audience. It's an honor to be appreciated. All of us are grateful to you for that. And now this is the time for me to close this inaugural session with a vote of thanks. Let me start this vote of thanks by thanking Professor Manoj Dixit. Sir, thank you so much for again coming up and making time for us. As always, you have been there for us. Today as well, you have made a lot of effort to be here with us and make so much time available for us. As I understand what you have said, that IGNOU is already having a lot of facilities that have been discussed in the NEP. We have the credit transfer, we have the flexibility. We also have the courses which are available on the SWAYAM platform, so that we become course-based and course-focused. But we have understood that you would want us to focus as well on the area of hospitality, where it is not just the tourism people who should be traveling and getting inputs before they start the practice of tourism, but it should also be incorporated in the hospitality industry, in which people should travel, learn more about the food, because food is not just a cuisine to be explored, it is also a culture. And I understand from what you have shared that it is time for us to find our roots back. We should go back to how the education was conducted and given out in the ancient period, especially what you have spoken about Nalanda and how it was so much in demand in the earlier times. And maybe it has come, the world has come around, and now it's again time for us to become more significant and more valuable in the global education system. And thankfully, you have already said that IGNOU is already having a global presence, and we continue to do that in future as well. And we will incorporate whatever suggestions you have given about putting more of culture in the tourism sector, that our students know about it. So Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, thank you, sir. As I have already said, so it is your patronage that has always given us wings. It is your steadfast belief in us that gives us the opportunity to try out new things. You are the one who had encouraged us to take our courses online. And today we are here with this first initiative of school-specific NEP, thanks to your patronage and help. We will, as you have stated here, we will try to focus more on other areas, other schools, see how we can incorporate their courses in our program so that we become more multidisciplinary in our approach and we give more opportunities to our students to explore other areas within IGNOU and other schools so that they become more employable. As you have suggested, we will certainly try to upgrade ourselves and our study material at the fast as possible so that we stay on the same page as our learners, who you have rightly said are very much aware these days. I hope to make it possible for all of us to work towards it and make it happen, that we become and stay popular with our learners as we are today. And Professor R.P. Das ji, our PVC of our school, so it is with your guidance that we have conducted this national webinar, the first of our kind, the first webinar that we have conducted in this corona pandemic times, which webinars have become very popular. So as you have said that in the schools, we have to start with hospitality and tourism education. So I would be happy to tell you that lately in the last few years, there is a stream of vocational education which has been introduced at the level of school, both in the stream of hospitality as well as tourism. So students have a scope and chance to understand what tourism and hospitality is all about from 9th onwards. So they have a vocational stream which starts with 8 levels, which starts from the school level itself. But yes, as an NEP has says, and as you have said, we have to come up with a more integrated approach so that the students, they do not stay only in the vocational stream, but if they want, they can also go to the mainstream and start doing something similar to what they have learned in their schools. I understand that you have encouraging us to look up the courses that were suggested in that expert committee meeting, which was chaired by you. We have got your hint, sir. We will certainly look into it and see how we can incorporate that, keeping in mind the NEP framework. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the resource persons who have agreed to this NEP, and not only agreed, but they have motivated us, asked questions, told us that they will be there for us no matter what, and even at short notice, they have been available for us. It will be difficult for me to take the name of each one of you because we have already crossed 11:30. I'm so sorry about that. But I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you whom I can see right now. That is Aparna Raj ma'am, who has been there from the very beginning, right before time. Thank you so much. And Sampat Swainji, who was also there from the very beginning. Then we have Professor S.K. Gupta ji. Thank you so much, sir. I even had a mishap with the email, but Professor Gupta was kind enough to overlook my mishap with the email delay. We have Dr. Sarup Sinha, and thank you so much because I understand he had been, he is working and he had to be specially take leave to be here with us. Professor Parida, thank you so much, sir. As always, you have said that we always call upon you a lot, and in the past you have said that we ask so much of your time, but it is so good to see that no matter how much we ask for your time, you are always there available for us. Thank you so much, Parida ji. Along with that, we have a long list of resource persons who will be there with us throughout the day. We have Professor Manjula Chaudhary, we have Professor Ashish Dhaya from the hospitality, we have Dr. Sandeep Kulshrestha, and interestingly, we also have Mr. Lalit Nirula, who is from the Nirula chain for the hospitality section towards the end. I thank each and every one of these resource persons. I thank all the audience and participants who have made this webinar possible. Thank you for your participation here in this group, as well as watching us through the webcast, through Facebook, through YouTube. I thank each and every one of you, especially the alumni of SATHSM, my school. I understand all my PhD scholars and all the students are there. I have been receiving your messages and emails. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have the alumni with you. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Center of Online Education, especially Professor Uma Kanjilan and Mithun. Both of them were working with me till 11 o'clock last night just to ensure that the webcast link is up and running. Today in the morning, they reached early just to ensure that things go smoothly. And we have been coordinating for almost 7 days now. I have been disturbing them every day. Thank you so much for the support and for everybody else at COE who has stood by with us during this time. And I cannot forget Mr. Rajesh, who is the PRO of IGNOU. He has been promoting and publicizing our event through Facebook and through other platforms. Thank you so much for all the help. Today he is doing the webcasting on Facebook. And finally, most important people for this webinar, my school. I would take this opportunity to thank Professor Jitendra Srivastava. There are times, sir, when I feel that you really push us so much. But I understand that it is your pushing, which should be called motivating, which makes us do a lot of things which we would not be doing otherwise. So you really make us work. You do not allow us to be complacent. And sir, that is my thank you to you. You motivate us to give so much more than we think we are capable of. Thank you for all the support for the past 3 years that you have given us. And it is due to your support and motivation and the hard push that this webinar happened today. Thank you so very much to be present even with your ill health today. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the staff members who have been forced to stay even after hours to make this webinar happen. And not just this, because we are busy with the webinar, the staff has held the school fort for us. And finally, I do not know whether I should thank them or I should be grateful for the fact that I have a fantastic set of colleagues. My fantastic set of colleagues consist of Dr. Sonia Sharma, Dr. Arvind Kumar Dubey, and Dr. Tangza Khombi Akoizm. And let's not forget Professor Harkirat Bans. These people have stood by, worked with me. We have worked together. I have worked with them. And today this webinar is possible only because my faculty and we as colleagues are standing by with each other. If you check the schedule of the webinar, you will see that we have 4 sessions. There are 4 of us, the faculty members, and all 4 of us are handling one of the sessions. It goes on to say that we work well together. If Professor Nageshwar Rao, sir, our Vice Chancellor, says the School of Tourism is doing good work, it is only because the 4 of us really can work good and well together as a team. I can never imagine a webinar happening without the team that we are. It is us, the 4 of us, with Professor Jitendra Srivastava and Bans ma'am. I thank all of you for your participation, but I would also request you to please stay on, because from 12 o'clock we start our first session. The first session will be about national education policy and its role in the tourism education, how we are going to do how the implementation of national education policy will be in the tourism education. For that, we have 3 resource persons: Professor Aparna Raj from Bundelkhand University, Professor B.B. Parida from Bardhaman University, Dr. Sandeep Kulshrestha, former director IITTM, and this whole session will be coordinated by my colleague, Dr. Arvind Kumar Dubey. So please stay on. Thank you for the participation in the inaugural session. And from 12 o'clock, we come back with the first session of the day. Thank you all. Have a good day.